All right. Disclaimer. Today is not March, April 22nd. Welcome to the Geek Group. Uh, Topics, properties, and investments discussed are for educational purposes only. We do not sell securities. Each investor is responsible for their own decisions and must evaluate investments according to their investment risk tolerances. Opinions expressed are those of speakers and no one else. So for our guest tonight is Terrina. Terrina is an accomplished regulatory compliance professional in the healthcare field with experience that spans over 22 years. As a former chemical officer of the U.S. Army, Terrina passionately serves veterans in her local community. Ms. Wilder is an author of literary writings in both Christian fiction and nonfiction genres. She resides in North Texas, where she began actively investing in real estate in 2017. Currently, Terrina has 197 units under management in multifamily real estate. Welcome, Terrina.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and project. Let's see. Okay. And can you see my screen at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Very well. Well, thanks for having me to come and talk to you about time management. And during the update and the sharing time, it seemed like most of you and most of us were talking about managing our time and having a 9 to 5 as well. And that's really what I wanted to just share with you tonight as far as managing time when you have a day job as well. So, a couple of things I wanted to make sure that we talked about today in regards to time management, finding time when you have a 9 to 5 to do everything else, prioritizing your schedule, knowing how to guard your time wisely, allocating personal time, and then knowing your limits. So I just kind of wanted to just go into a little informal conversation in a sense in regards to these particular topics. So many of you, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Dolly Parton in the movie Working 9 to 5. I love the little song that goes with it, but I tell you, when you listen to the lyrics, it sounds like this woman was working and burning the candle at both ends. So I do like this movie, and it just brought back those memories of trying to juggle so many things. So one of the things about launching a multifamily business, you may have to have a second job or a primary job just to support you until you have that business up and running. I haven't arrived there yet, so I still have a primary job too. Uh, as far as what remains after doing your primary job, there may be only 3 to 5 hours left. So you have to juggle personal as well as building your business within that small window of time, or just do a little bit of your business a couple of days of the week versus trying to capture everything in one solitary day. So it's all about juggling your time appropriately and understanding how much you have allocated. Charting your course is going to be key as well. So in charting your course, how do you use your available time is going to be important. I think one of the good things to do is you may have in your inbox, your email inbox, all of these different invitations. You may be on so many people's distribution lists, whether you want it to be or not, but there may be some things that may pique your interest. But setting aside time to determine what all you should get involved in and what things may pique your interest takes a very I would say a strategic approach. And it may be looking at everything, looking at your calendar, seeing where you have a window of opportunity outside of your day job. So again, that window of time, maybe it's after 5 p.m. that you can begin to segregate or set aside time to attend events. Sometimes using your lunch hour, if you have that kind of a setup, to consider attending certain events as well. And then determine what properties you'll evaluate. So as I mentioned, I'm currently looking for pocket deals. And the strategy, I had to figure out what that strategy would be in order to do that. And whatever other tasks you may have in the business, such as underwriting and touring properties, submitting LOIs, depending on whether or not you want to syndicate a deal or do a joint venture, you may have to get the opinions of a sponsor, especially for a syndicated deal, prior to you submitting that LOI. Or some things can be done in parallel, just so that you don't miss out on an opportunity. But again, it's all about strategy of how you time, how you will use your time, and how you would develop your strategy as well. Now, evaluating your progress. So your your time management plan may have to be altered and amended along the way. But this is where it's important for you to set your goals, whether it be weekly goals, monthly goals, and then hold yourself accountable. You can't, in this business, be a one-person operation. You just can't. It's just too much stuff to do. So in that regard, this is where you have team members to hold you accountable. And it's about developing or discovering who those team members will be that meet with your value system and kind of complement your personality style or your work style. I have one person who loves underwriting who works with me. Another person, she has a wonderful way of building a rapport with brokers. So with those two skill sets, it really complements my ability to want to manage. I love project managing. I'm kind of a geek that way. So that's my skill set. And I love being boots on the ground too. So bringing that to the table and making sure that we can just complement one another, that is something that can very well help. And make adjustments as needed. Also, be fair to yourself. If you're not a strong underwriter, for instance, own up to that. Don't continue to try and build that skill, but own up to that. Understand where your strengths are, understand where you may need additional help. Bookkeeping, I can't stand it, but it's a necessary evil, right? So these are things that we have to be mindful of and just be really fair and honest about. Then as far as prioritizing your schedule for your day job, be effective on it. I feel that it's so important to be or to work with a spirit of excellence. So your day employer expects you to produce, and it's important that you do so. Whatever that job requires of you, don't try and steal, if you will, time that employer is paying for you. I just believe that wholeheartedly. Being an entrepreneur myself, I would hate to hire someone realizing that the time a person was to work on my project, they've utilized for someone else's task, and then they're billing me for it. I certainly don't want anything like that to happen. So from that standpoint, I sympathize with employers when it comes to having people come on board and they're paying for a service. So be effective on that day job and work with a spirit of excellence, looking from the point of view of an employer and also from an employee as well. Make sure you allocate time for family and self. So I have to admit, I have been so methodical for so many years and for so long that I forgot or I neglected certain areas that needed to be prioritized as well. So being able to go out to that fun event, I mean, I literally now have to schedule certain things in order for me not to forget to live life. You know, you can't always just focus on working. So that's really key. And that's just one of those lessons learned for me. Accept the pace it will take you to reach your goals. So this first multifamily deal, it took me 2 years, guys, 2 years to land this first opportunity. Not to say that will be your scenario, but if it is, embrace it. And don't compare your path to anyone else's. And that's really important so that you can stay encouraged. So guarding your time. Have you ever said to yourself, my, where has the time gone? And you look up and you realize that you didn't get accomplished from your to-do list everything that you wanted to. And some of that could be because you haven't really mapped out what it is that you need to do. Now, I think it's important not to be so stringent that you don't live life, as I mentioned earlier. But there can be times when you can schedule some spontaneity into your schedule, such as having a casual conversation with an old friend. I call it driving for dollars, getting in your car on your lunch break and driving through neighborhoods and seeing. I take photos of apartment complexes, and then I go home and look it up to see, you know, what's going on with that particular property. When was it last sold, and see if it's worthwhile to pursue it. So that's something that I do. Dinner with friends. That's something that I need to do more of. And then attending events off schedule, meaning if you get an invitation to a virtual event or something in your inbox, consider making sure that you allot certain time to do certain things like that. So every day can't always be planned to work on the business. So maybe in the course of a week, you may leave a few hours just to have some spontaneity in your schedule. Determine what to accomplish for the following day before you go to bed. So one thing I like to do, I typically go to bed around 10, sometimes 9:30. Yes, I go to bed early, according to some people, but plan out what tomorrow will be like for you. So that you can get more accomplished. I try and do that on a nightly basis, just so that I can see where there could be time wasters or areas where I can capture certain things that I wasn't able to do the previous day or what have you. So there needs to be a little bit of flexibility in your schedule so that you can get things done. But at the same time, you need to work with a schedule. So personal time. I can't really express this enough. I just find it important to live out life with no regrets. And if your family members are being neglected because you're trying to climb the ladder, what we used to call the corporate ladder, or just try and build your business, it would be really a sad situation, in my opinion, if you get to that period where you're now not working and you're looking back on your life and you're saying, I coulda, woulda, shoulda. Well, why not plan out those important things today as opposed to having those regrets later? And have fun in life. I think this is important. And I say this not only for myself, but anyone who's trying to build their business, to be an entrepreneur, to juggle multiple things, and do it well, do it without having so much stress in your life. I think it's important to strike a balance with these different things. So spending quality time with those you love and care for, friends and family, and planning social outings with even people that you meet within the real estate industry. So sometimes there are personal relationships that you can build with brokers, with broker or commercial real estate brokers, lending brokers, or mortgage brokers, insurance brokers, property managers. These are personal relationships, and oftentimes you see situations arise where you can go on vacations and do social outings together. So plan these things in advance and Just be open to new possibilities. And then as far as knowing your limits, now you may not be able to outrun a lion. And it's important for you to understand that those are limits that you may have, but it's okay. It's not necessarily a bad thing that you're not able to do everything that someone else can do. Um, I will say this, I have tried to run 3 businesses at one time. And I finally had to make a decision when it comes to my book writing. I had to put that on the back burner for now. But the other two, the other two, which is the real estate asset management and the regulatory compliance, I have to run those two. And in order to do them effectively, the real estate compliance is in billable hours. So I will tell you this, when it comes to managing my time, I will tell someone in a very polite way, okay, we got 5 more minutes before I have to shift gears to the next task. I love you, but let's see if we can wrap this up in 5 minutes. And I have to have those kind of candid conversations. And one young lady I'm working with in the real estate arena, she kind of laughs at me because I'm very structured in how I'm holding her accountable, how I'm holding myself accountable for time, that is. But she knows that I'm on it when it comes to, hey, we got these particular actions that are coming up. So where are you? Are you 50%, 90% done? You know, tell me where you are. Well, let me tell you where I am with completing my task. But that's how I kind of gauge my professional life. But personal life, I try not to be so regimented, of course. And I just need to allow myself time to just live life. So again, I just wanted to share a few things that helped me and helped me understand where my stressors were. So time management, if it's not done effectively, can be a true source of stress for a person. And I think it's important that we don't set ourselves up for disappointment or even discouragement. That's really what I wanted to talk to you all about and encourage you on the course of building your multifamily business or your real estate business, whether you want to be in single family or multifamily. Whatever the case may be, time management is such an essential tool. But at this point, what I want to do is open it up for just open-ended questions, and I'll be willing to answer those for you as well.
Nice presentation, Terrina. One of the things that I've been learning recently, kind of with my own children, is not to put stress on people who are not getting things done as fast as you think they should be done too. You know? And not to try and hold everybody accountable to these high expectations that are just unachievable in that time frame. You know?
Yeah. And you know, Larry, the one thing too, I have worked in a role where I have mentored people in the regulatory and compliance space. And I tell you, it's been a pattern, a repeated pattern, where these mentees will approach me and ask me to mentor them, and they never produce the results. And I'm like, okay, what gives? And I think it's a mindset of people really not appreciating your time, especially when it's being volunteered, you know, to share a skill set for free. And I'm just of the belief now, when I start seeing those patterns now, I'm one to like to share knowledge. I love teaching in that regard, sharing that knowledge base. But if it becomes a matter of it being too time consuming, I have to shut it down. In fact, I had a young lady who approached me to be a mentor of hers in the real estate space. Now, I'm fairly new. I'm not a guru at this at all. But what I do know, I wanted to share it with her. And unfortunately, she wasn't aware of what all it took to invest that time in training. And I had to break it down to her. And I said, you know, time equals money to me. And I don't mean this to be harsh and brash, but the money or the time I'm spending training and volunteering my time to give you an education is money that I'm wasting, or time that I'm wasting not earning money in billable hours. So somewhere or another, I've had to get this time from somewhere. And it's best that I don't do that if there's no results as a result of it.
I spent a lot of time volunteering with the Boy Scouts as a leader, and you don't get paid anything there either. But I will tell you that all the time spent with all those people and all their family members and friends really opens up a lot of business contacts, and maybe
yes.
that's what it's worth. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even with that though, Larry, can you quantify the time that you spent to the potential prospect? Does it weigh out evenly, or is there a way in which you may need to tailor it or cut it back a little bit in order to make sure that it's worth your time?
Just something you said just struck a tone with me. You know, trying to keep people accountable.
Yeah.
I'm all the time asking for other parents to help out and volunteer, and they'll say they'll be there, and then they don't show up. You know, that's, yeah.
And those things happen, but it's not a loss. And that's to your point. It's not a loss of effort. It's just more of has that time been utilized wisely and well? And I've had to look at so many other areas of my life to see where are the time wasters, you know?
I guess, and sometimes too, you just got to take time for yourself and sit with yourself and meditate and pray or whatever you have to do. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys some questions in regards to what you may be dealing with in your life. How many of you have families or family members that you live with or have a current relationship with, whether it be spouses and children? How many of you have that scenario? Okay. And as you're building your business, do you find that you have to set aside time, quality time, for those loved ones as well?
I just have all my children doing underwriting for me. That's how I.
Oh, nice. Nice. What about you, Darnell?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So
it's me and my wife. My wife is very supportive, but was your question about time, like setting aside time?
Yes. Do you feel that sometimes you can overplan things to a point where you're not setting aside that quality time for those loved ones? Have you struck a balance between that, building your business and setting aside that quality time? And I hope that's not too personal.
No, it's not. Yes and no. Some weeks are better than others. My wife and I have our own individual businesses, and there are some weeks where we set aside that time, but we both aren't exactly where we want to be in our businesses. So there are some points where we get overly ambitious and it overrides that time, which we both know isn't good. But to answer your question honestly, that's pretty much what happens.
Yeah. And I think we all fall guilty of that to some degree. Yeah. And I think one of the things I have, and I'm speaking just from experience when it comes to setting aside that quality time, is being intentional. Looking at your schedule and just truly just being intentional. Where there could be a bucket of time, or within the week, for instance, you say, okay, on Friday night, this is date night or Friday night, this is family fun night, whatever it may be, setting aside that time to be very intentional. And whatever you set, so it's 2 hours on a Friday, for instance, maybe not label what it is, but that it's just something that you're going to deliberately do, intentionally do, that is spontaneous. Yeah.
I do have a question, Terrina.
Sure.
You mentioned that to get this deal that you just closed on now, if I heard you correctly, that it was like a 2-year process to get that deal.
Not that particular deal, but it
to
took
get a deal,
my
I guess you're
first deal.
saying. Right. Okay. So my question is, what was your mental process as you were going through that? Did you find times that you became or felt impatient? And if you did, how did you manage that?
Okay. So first of all, it was nothing that I did special to bring this deal along. It just so happened to happen to me and my team members. But leading up to it, just persevering, never giving up, believing in myself. I'll say this, coming to a point of understanding who I wanted to work with, and developing a sense of rapport with people. That took several months. I would say that actually took a year for me. That may not be the case for anyone else, but I had to feel that there was some level of trust in their abilities, trust in the process, trust in value systems. Am I okay with how this person operates? Would I be able to trust this person with my social security number, with my, money, with my savings? Those are things that are near and dear to my heart, and I just don't take that lightly. So when you're signing agreements and things of that nature and opening bank accounts, I mean, you're sharing that kind of information. So trust from me takes a process. And I think I just had to be honest with myself with that.
You did find some very good partners. I remember reading their bios and thinking you had a wonderful team, and you have 2 very good sponsors on that deal too.
Yes. Thank you, Larry.
I saw a walkthrough of the property. Very contemporary, very interesting property.
Yes, actually, it was built in the 70s, but the CapEx plan that we have would certainly give it a nice little, it wouldn't upgrade it to modern day per se, but it would be some nice features within it, like current flooring and lighting and fixtures and things like that. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I got some questions too. Terrina, excellent presentation. Thank you so much. And you mentioned some way through, but just in case, I think everybody on the call right now knows what this is, but just in case somebody's watching and they don't know what it is, what's a pocket deal? You're looking for pocket deals right now. What is that?
That's an off-market deal, something that you don't find on Crexy or LoopNet, something that a commercial real estate broker hasn't listed. It's something that you find off-market, and you find it through various sources, word of mouth, what I call driving for dollars, driving through neighborhoods and taking photos of like the marquee or the kiosk at the entryway, and then coming home and doing your research on the property, finding who the owner is through various ways of researching that. That's one way. And so yeah, pocket deals are those that are off market.
The last time I received a pocket listing, it was a very polished OM, and I figured he was calling it a pocket listing, but I'm guessing it really wasn't. Yeah.
If an OM is already created, it more than likely isn't. Yeah. Was it through a broker?
This particular broker was, his specialty was upscale, single family, multi-million dollar estate type places.
Oh, okay. Well, it could be a pocket deal from the standpoint of only a select few may be exposed to it. But I really don't consider that pocket.
And maybe I should have moved faster, but the challenge on that deal, I didn't have anybody in Dallas to look at the roofs, and I could, just from the pictures, the roofs look scary.
Yeah.
All right, so I got some more. I'm going to keep throwing mine out. Everybody jump in front of me if you've got more questions or comments. I love that you're telling us to schedule for spontaneity. I think that's a fantastic suggestion. And I love the idea of develop friendships inside of multifamily. I think safely I can say now that some of my best friends are in the multifamily industry. And then when you guys go to take vacations, like even now, my wife and I think I sent out a notice to some of you that we're going on an Alaska cruise in July. And if you guys book along with us, then, the more we talk about real estate, the more we can write off those trips as tax deductions. And that's a secret of the wealthy, right? You write off all of your activities become business activities, because we're talking about this stuff all the time, 24/7.
Yes.
Well, so then here's my next question for you. So in your deal, as you're going through this syndication and into where you are within it now, because you've gone some ways into it, what have you found through that process of going through the syndication that you didn't expect to find?
So let me first say this. I'm a very regimented person. And I knew I had to be flexible. And one of the things I'm realizing within the real estate industry, it's not as straight-laced as corporate America, of course, right? And I had to prepare my mindset for that. When it comes to how certain practices come about, for instance, the negotiation with the lender, and the documentation of the lender. Once we were at the closing table and then finally got the bill, if you will, for the council, the lender counsel's fees, it was a major surprise. I mean, it truly was a major surprise. So I wasn't expecting that. I truly wasn't expecting that. But every deal is different, I suppose. But their fees were much higher than our team's fees.
Oh, are you willing to share a number? Is that like $7,000 or something, or how much?
Oh, goodness.
No.
Much
No?
higher.
Oh my.
Much higher. To a point where it really impacted our underwriting. We had to go back and realize that when it came to payout of the acquisition fee, we had to delay it. We couldn't pay the full 100% of the acquisition fee. So those are things that, I mean, it's really good to have conservative underwriting up front for those aha moments, things that you simply cannot expect. The other thing that I found to be incredibly surprising was the lender handles the appraisal. So they coordinate it and they organize it, and then your team, pay for it, of course. But they're not so willing to share the results of that report until you close. All T's are crossed, all I's are dotted, and the monies are transferred over to them. And it's only at that point will they share the report. So that's something that I wasn't expecting either.
Okay, so a couple of follow-up questions. When we underwrite, we drop in 3% to cover costs. the expense that you're talking about, I'm hearing you say was not covered in that 3%. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, that's awesome. And then on the topic of the appraisal, when you finally received the report, was there anything in there surprising that you would have wished you had seen before closing that would have maybe opened your eyes to additional aspects, or?
I'm still reading through it. It was 500 pages.
Wow.
Well, actually over 500. So I'm surprised by the length of it.
It's tax season now, and I had a wake-up call. I'm a limited partner on 3 deals, and only on one of those deals did they get the K1s to me before April 15th. It's like a common thing for these K1s to be late.
Yeah. And that's what I was told too. And that was a surprise to me, but understanding what the process is. So the asset management team would have to coordinate efforts with their CPA. The CPA then has to submit or do a filing to the IRS and then be issued the K1s in order to then send that to the investors individually, and that's why it takes a while. Oftentimes, it's just best to plan to do an extension early on.
Everyone's telling me that. Yeah.
Question.
I love the, go ahead, Pedro.
Question on the appraisal. Did you have an awareness of how long the appraisal took for it to be that long, 500 pages? Like, did the appraisal take 2 weeks?
No,
10 days?
actually, it was a one-day type of activity. One of the sponsors from our team, she actually was a former appraiser herself, but she met the appraiser at the property and they walked through it together. So it was an appointed day or a scheduled day for that to take place. It's the write-up and all that it took to finalize it. And I don't think it was something that took a lengthy period of time. It was more so the release of the information. I guess it's more of a matter of the lender using that as, hey, we don't want to release this until all the full deal is completed. The closing is totally completed. We don't want this to be released until that happens. So I think that's the mindset. Yeah.
Did you have the opportunity to be with the appraiser while they were walking through the property?
I did not, but one of our sponsors on the team did. The one who is a former appraiser, actually. That would be Rebecca. Mm-hmm.
We've had all your sponsors and Mike Desero. We've had everybody from your project on this call, just about.
Oh, okay.
So all well-known friends within the industry in this group. Well, so okay, how about this? Was the process of syndication an emotional roller coaster in terms of raising money, not having money, we're closing on time, we're not closing on time, the deal's on, the deal's off, that kind of thing? How was that with your syndication? And tell us more about that.
So one of the good things about the PSA, the purchase sales agreement, it was written in that agreement that if we needed to extend the closing date, we had that leverage to do so. Well, turns out we needed it. Our original close date was scheduled for January 5th. And then we had to certainly extend that. And the extension was supposed to be for March, I think it was March 2nd or something like that. But then there was a faux pas, if you will, with the title company not being responsive. So it ended up moving to the 8th of March. So just going through that. And I think the reality is, and I've heard this from other multifamily investors, GP investors, or active investors, they have indicated that sometimes your closing date may not be the one that you really planned for. It could be extended. So I think it's important to prepare that in your mindset so that you're not fully disappointed there as well. But what does that mean? If you have a schedule that is, so tight, you may have to build as you're getting close to your closing day. That may mean that you have to build a little spontaneity, if you will, in your schedule to allow for that flexibility, because you just never know if something may come up at the last minute and now you need additional time.
You seem a lot more cheerful and smiling more now that you've been through closing than you were those few weeks before.
Well, I tell you, it was just nerve-wracking to constantly have all these changes. And I don't know if Rebecca shared this at all with you all, but I mean, she knows this stuff, right? So she's done it so many different times, but it kind of put me on edge when we were driving and literally having to pull off on the side of the road to review documents and get them off. And thank goodness we have modern technology where we can do DocuSign and PDF documents and things of that nature. She had her laptop with her and she was just able to, get it routed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something else. So it was something to experience, that's for sure.
She's a numbers person too.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to keep chiming in here and then keep asking questions after each chime in. So out of our 9 syndications that we've done, and we've done them all full circle now, we have never seen a K1 on time. Never. So always, every year, and they went multiple years for each of them, right? So every year you're going to file as an investor for your extension, no matter what. Nobody's ever going to close on April 15 ever again if you're a real estate investor.
Wow.
Is my 2 cents worth, just based on my history, right? Number 2, out of the 9 syndications, we never had any of the 9 close on time.
Wow.
Not a single one. In fact, the longest one extended from, when brokers push you to set up these deals, they want to see 60 days, right? And you're building in the extra month there, if at all possible, in the PSA. A lot of times there's hard money that goes down as you build in the extensions. That was your case too. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, and hard money, just if somebody's listening that doesn't know, that's money that if you don't close, you don't get back. The seller keeps it.
Yes.
And then our longest property was the one where there was a fire during while we were under contract. That one went into 9 months for the duration while we negotiated with the insurance company. So any number of things can happen, and that was outside of contract, so it was able to be handled by additional negotiation. And then a couple other things you said. 2, I wonder if you have started to consider charging for your mentorship to try to get students put some skin in the game.
That's amazing that you would ask that. I think I need to consider that, because I just really had to have that, I call it a powwow with this young lady, because I don't think she understood what I was really giving her. And I just had to have some common talk, if you will, with her. And I said, look, the price of the education that I'm providing you is well over $40,000. So you may want to consider how to approach this and make sure that you're looking at my time, because my time is really valuable and I have to help you value it as well. I know this young lady from another aspect of my social life, and that is through church. So I was able to be very candid with her. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And then, so a lot of times I'll ask the sponsors / guests that come on, how much money cumulatively, and this is all in line with what we're talking about right now, how much money cumulatively have you spent to learn syndication over the years prior in your education? And a lot of us have been in different programs. We've paid mentorships at different ones, et cetera, et cetera. What's your number? What are you up to now in terms of your total spend on education, so to speak?
Over 80. Yeah, over 80,000. Yeah.
Very common.
Mhm.
So another reason to charge people when they come to you to learn what you've spent.
I know that now. Yes.
I love it. I don't know if you remember, Terrina, but I said you guys are on the same trajectory we are. We're just a little bit ahead of you, but not much. And you're rolling down that same curve. You're going through the same sort of experiences where now you come to, we all sort of come to the same realization. Okay. Another thing is, we've started to in the Geek group. This is sort of a plug for the underwriting sponsorship within the Geek group. We've started to bring in, like David Selvins bringing his daughter in to learn underwriting. I think we're very much interested in the idea that you're bringing your family members into your multifamily business, and they've got to train too. So somewhere in that, I think is affecting all of us, where we're like, hey, if you're going on vacation and you're taking your family members and you're visiting multifamilies while you're at it and they're underwriting for you, this is a family business and you essentially are emerging into a family office.
Right.
Set this sucker up and start writing off every single thing you spend is a legitimate write-off for your business now, right?
Yeah.
This is really true. It's not fake. You're not cheating. You're doing the real thing. And then maybe my last question I've got written down at the moment is, I know your personality a little bit. I've known you for a while now, not too long, maybe a couple years or so. I'm not sure how long, but I know your methodical personality. How has your team on this property that you're on reacted to your sort of methodical, detailed approach to asset management? How have been their reactions to you?
Well, I will say this. Kim and Sansu have expressed to me, Terrina, one of the things about you, I know that you have my best interests at heart, so I trust you in the decisions that you make that impact me. And that is so humbling and honoring to know that team members can say that and mean it too. So I don't take that lightly. Again, like I said, we're dealing with people's sensitive information, their social security numbers. That's something that you want to guard dearly, and I don't take that lightly. So, yes, that's been the response.
Nice. I
We
see
know
a real
you are.
real sense of satisfaction in that for you.
Yes, indeed.
The
So that's
Three
awesome.
Musketeers.
Yeah. And then, so just one more thing I want to key on and have you talk about it slightly more is from and then I'm sorry to dominate all the questions if I am here. So the other thing is just this idea of staying in the business long-term, of sort of positioning yourself for a long-term stay and continuing to learn and grow and develop as you're waiting. I think you almost described it as when the deal finally came around, you were there waiting, ready, trained, you'd studied. Now it was appropriate. That kind of idea that while we don't see immediate success, we're still hanging out in this industry because there's it's coming type thing. Maybe just that idea of always being ready and always learning, that kind of mentality or mindset.
Absolutely. And not being unrealistic is so important. I think I only had a temporary moment of delusion early on, and that
Just
was
one?
you get rich off of your first deal. No, keep your day job. Yes, indeed.
You mean
I
you
have,
didn't go to the office and say, I quit, that's it, I'm done?
I have some trivia for you guys. It's another tax day trivia. There are more car accidents around April 15th than any other time of the year. And I guess because everybody gets distracted and they're stressed out, right? And there are more people tend to make more life-changing decisions around April 15th than any other time of the year. So don't quit your day job in April, I guess.
Yeah.
So I would do at any time you're doing a syndication, anybody come up with just being ethical, or it's just a presumed stance that the group takes?
If I understand the question, are you asking if ethics becomes an issue of concern for syndication?
Not really concerned per se, but do anyone just, is it just talked about or it's just presumed or assumed?
Is it assumed that people will have ethics?
Well, we hope that you would, but thinking that, you know, with all these sensitive information that that is put out there, is it in writing then that, you know, people should have that?
Yeah. I would say that that's where it is so important to know who's on your team and that you have a good sense of their character. I think that's important before you start signing contracts and things of that nature. Try and have a good sense of your team members' character, if at all possible. And if you're developing a new team, ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest even doing background checks if you don't know them very well. You may want to consider that too. Because again, you're dealing with very, very sensitive information.
How many people did you go through and consider partnering with before you picked these two ladies?
So amazingly, I started with a Slack group right after a sponsorship event. And this sponsorship event was something through the RE Mentor program, Dave Lindau's multifamily community. And several of us who were attendees decided, hey, let's get together. Let's not make this a one-time event. Let's go ahead and continue meeting and getting to know one another. And this one particular person decided to basically spearhead the meetings and to kind of assemble us. And then what happened was we started to underwrite together. And from there, I mean, again, this is my personality, and I'm not saying this is the case with anyone else, but I had to get to know people from that group to feel comfortable enough to start sharing things very freely. Some people moved at a faster pace than me with the sharing aspect. I benefited from that. And then once the momentum started of underwriting on a regular basis, it seemed like a core group began to form. It started off with like 60 to 90 people. Then it tapered off to about 7. And then from there, it tapered off to about 5. In that core group, we started doing deals, you know, and submitting LOIs. And then from there, a group, me, Kim, and Sansu, decided to branch off and work on a couple of deals ourselves. So, yeah. I also met Max after the sponsorship event, and we started those underwriting groups. And several people I met through that, Pedro being one of them, and several other people. We started underwriting. So I want to say that just doing underwriting can truly help you build a rapport with people, whether you're good at it or not. You can hone your skill, but also you can get to know people as well.
I feel like I walk into a room with 100 people, potential partners. I'll be lucky if I find one.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to chime in here because I'm the only one on the call, I'm pretty sure, that's lost money in the syndication so far. So, you know, the values for us, the whole values matching thing we do, where we've set values and then we talk to people and we just talk to them about, are you a fit? Right here are the values. Do you fit this or not? People are very clear about where they stand in almost all cases. They'll tell you, I don't fit those values. And then it's a very unemotional conversation of, you know, we probably shouldn't do a deal together or be on a team together. And with that sponsor that we lost money with, it wasn't just us. I mean, it was $1.5 million of investor money that flowed out the door. And he, to this day, you know, is a well-known Lindahl sponsor. I don't think he's involved with the group anymore now, but it was the values that we honed in on, and we said at some point, we don't think we're a fit with this person, right? So it was through those values that allowed us to sort of have that other check to go, this just isn't a fit and we should probably move away. And we did all that process. We moved away. It was later that we found out this event happened with one of the deals we were already in on with that sponsor. But I think those, you know, that traction book is still a basis for a great team. And there's some stuff in there. We learned all that, set the values. You know, the traction book taught us that. And there's that whole people analyzer in that book of how do you rate somebody on values fairly, right? And to get the right people on the bus and in the right seats. And to this day, been such a great part of that building friendships within this industry.
It's kind of a debate going on in some social media areas of they call it the kindness versus nice debate. You know, businesses should practice kindness. Not enough businesses do that, but you don't want to be nice. If you're trying really hard to be nice, you're going out of business. And I guess the kindness is the step brother or a big older sibling to nice. Nice, you're spinning your wheels trying to make everyone happy. Kind, you're doing things for people, but you do expect something in return. So you're only spending time doing kind things if it's value to your business.
Yeah.
I watch out for people who are overly kind, and I watch out for people who are maybe just a little bit too over aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Extreme ends, in other words.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, I tell you, the one thing is, if we live long enough, we'll learn what things we can appreciate in our relationships with others, whether we just have formed a relationship or just met a person, versus our experience of, you know, working with them in a team environment. So, you know, sometimes you just can't anticipate what will happen. We just have to experience certain things. So as Max was mentioning, you know, losing on a syndication deal, I mean, losing money, and we're not talking coins here. We're talking millions, thousands, you
and
know.
He's still smiling. He's still cheerful.
But valuable lessons nonetheless. So.
Yeah, but this life's not about money. You learn that too. You know, some of these, you start to get into these deals, you see a lot of money. Some of us have never had an experience with a $10 million deal or a $20 million deal. And now we're dealing with properties we bought, you know, one Castaways at 10 million, sold it for 20, 4 years later, right? I had never had exposure to a $20 million deal, and now I have, right? So it's an interesting perspective to go, maybe it's true. Maybe money really isn't everything. Maybe it's about the relationships. Maybe it's about the people, the connections, the future, the freedom. Maybe it's about all kinds of things other than money, right? So that's just one component of it. So
I've heard whole.
Larry.
Hello, hello. Did I lose you guys? Am I cutting out?
Now you're back in.
Yeah. I'm eating up too much bandwidth, talking too much.
I'm sorry, Larry, did you ask me a question?
No, I was just commenting that adding to Max's remark, when you have a fire on a property, that you really have to be emotionally prepared for something like that.
I agree.
Wow, on that note, it's not my story. It's Bob Bowman talks about a fire on his property where people died. Emotionally affected him to this day, right? Deeply. So for us, thank goodness it was only property that burned. So
Anyone else have any questions?
My dog is cutting up here in the background.
Okay, so now we're at the point of the meeting where we're going to rate and wrap. Remember, you are rating the meeting, not the speaker.
I can go first. Thank you, Terrina.
Well, you're welcome.
so I can jump in here too. This is Max. I'm a 10. Thanks, Terrina. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pedro, I'm a 9. Terrina, congratulations on your deal.
Thank you.
Pedro, tell us why you're a 9. Give us feedback.
Well, it's hard to, only because it's short. I know there's a lot, and you had to go through a lot of growth to get the work on the process and get the deal going. And it was just short, and the time. I know you had a lot, like, to study the time management, and I think I think it could have been longer. That's it.
I give it a 10.
I give it a 10 too. I think the topic was just right for me tonight. I've been struggling with time management. I've been reading this book, The One Thing, all about time management. Really appreciate it, Terrina. Thanks for coming on and doing this. And Max, thanks for scheduling it.
Yeah, thank you, Terrina. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I gave it a 10 as well. It really hit home for me with the time management and the piece where you discussed where, and I didn't realize till the night there were, because I tend to think that I'm the only one on here that's still working a job. So I'm still
working a job.
Yeah, that was different. But just the fact that you touched on that and how you navigate that really hit home for me. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, it was my pleasure to come and speak with this group again, because I have some fond thoughts in regards to the Geek group and how it got started and what took place prior to the Geek group formation. So certainly this has been a pleasure for me as well.
Your little doggy wants to go outside.
He sees some kids out there, I tell you.
I know the feeling.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you again, Terrina.
Night.
Thank you, everybody. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
All right.